So we're going to read more into this, and we're going to start, ironically, at the back, because at the back there is a post-lecture questions and answer session with Charlotte Gerson. And quite frankly, all of these are absolutely absurd, her answers, and can be shown that, again, this entire treatment is, complete quackery. But we're just going to go through some of these questions. I've just marked some of them. So you can read along with me if you want, if you're unfortunate to actually have bought this book as some sort of journal rather than I'm using it as a comedy aid. We start at page 413. And the first question, right? Question from a doctor, in brackets. What type of doctor? It doesn't say. Remember, these people count naturopathic doctors who use herbalism and hypnotherapy as, actual doctors. So even chiropractors to them count as doctors. So again, them starting just saying from a doctor is really misleading. So question, Dr. Gerson, not a doctor by the way, because this is question answers with Charlotte Gerson by the way. As far as I know, she's not a doctor. When I visited your hospital in 1946, your housekeeper was drinking fresh carrot juice. She had an inoperable cancer of the pancreas. Please tell us about her. Is she doing well? Is she doing very well for such a bad condition? Answer. She's in a good condition now, 10 years later. That's basically it. Oh, she's fine. Who is this housekeeper? We don't know. Would she like to come forward? I don't know. You'd think that, she might be included in this, supposed 50 cases if it's so, if it works. If it miraculously works, why isn't she in here? Right, and this is absolutely, this question, as far as I'm concerned, this is what, as far as I'm concerned, even if you are a supporter, this should raise red flags to you, because what she says here is absolutely, quite frankly, ridiculous. Right, question. What metabolic test do you do before and after to further prove recovery systematically as well as clinically? So the question is how do you test and how do you prove that all these cancers and the cancers that you have claimed to cure since at your clinic have been cured? Well, as I've said before, they do no testing. Now, I was wrong on this, because they do testing. However, the testing they do is so ridiculous and so outlandish, it's ridiculous. So let's begin with the answer. I examine in all of these cases the urine, the complete blood count, basal metabolism or protein-bound iodine and potassium in serum and tissue to see how the liver functions. I find it best to examine the end product of the protein metabolism. Urea nigration and uric acid, when these are normal and stay normal, then I assume that the patient is all right. See, these are not methods to decide whether you have been cured of cancer. Unless you have, actual bladder cancer, then this is the only way you can the only cancer you can actually test with this method. If you have cancer anywhere else in your body, this is not going to prove a damn thing. Right, where are we? Yeah. But potassium in serum does not give a characteristic picture and makes it difficult to judge. The patient may be cured, yet the serum potassium still shows low dren real because of the tissue it takes away. In some of our cancer patients, when they arrive as normal terminal cases, potassium is above normal. Again, what does potassium have to do with cancer? Nothing. And again, this is absolute quackery. If your potassium level is high, it means nothing in the long run at all. Right? They make a lot in this book about, you know, your levels being too high, being too low, and all this. But the thing is, though, remember, they're giving you coffee enemas. And coffee enemas remove a huge amount of potassium, to the point where this has caused people serious illness. And they won't admit this. Yet it's documented. One of the physicians asked me once, "Are you crazy?" To which I'd say that's probably the most sane physician at that place. With potassium above normal, you give such a big dose of potassium. And I said, "Yes, sir, I am not crazy. The patient is losing the potassium." That doesn't add up at all. Because even if you are taking out potassium, right, your body produces, again, this is, again, what they don't even understand or even admit to themselves. Your body will produce potassium like normal, right? Even if you have an intake of potassium, your body will get rid of it because it doesn't need that much potassium. You have this thing called the liver, which works wonderfully well, and yet, again, these quacks constantly say that the liver just doesn't work, but it does, but you've got to, you know, use our stuff and then it works properly. As they say, as they like to say, it's like using oil in an engine. But put it this way, if you're using oil in this engine, basically all you're doing is you're wasting your oil, wasting money on buying this oil. The oil does nothing for the engine, and basically it seeps through the engine and does nothing. Basically, the engine doesn't need it. Yeah, so that's the end of that question. And again, that proves nothing that a patient might still have cancer or has been cured. So what, you've got higher, you know, you've gotten rid of, you know, this high potassium level. Again, if you think about how their regime is set up, that, you know, if you come in with even high or even normal potassium levels and you're having these coffee enemas, which again have been shown to take away massive amounts of potassium to an unhealthy level, where people have had actual problems with, you know, deficiency because of coffee enemas, then that to me basically says that this treatment is set up in such a way as to scam someone and to say, oh, these are your potassium levels before you came, these are your potassium levels now after your 2 weeks, you've been cured, go away. That's essentially what they are doing. Again, it's a massive con. This again is quite another shocking question that I've got down. In John Gunther's book, Death Be Not Proud, mention is made of your treatment as used on Gunther's son. I haven't read this, so I don't know what happened exactly. Spectacular results were obtained at first, but then there was a relapse and the patient died. Could you have cured this case without regular MD interference? And again, this question is basically, if the MD hadn't interfered, would he have survived? Now again, we don't know. Now I'm guessing that with, you know, if the MD had been there from the beginning, there's a possibility John Gunther's son might not have died. Again, we don't know. It's all ifs and buts. Answer. I will tell you why this poor boy died. He had a terrible brain tumour growing out of his skull, larger than my first. I cured that. Then why did he die of cancer of this tumour? If you cured it, why did he die? It's written in the book. But after that, the boy had an eczema, and this eczema was a special type which can usually be cured by giving the antilobal pituitary extract, a hormone. The family doctor, Dr. Traeger, said, "Why don't you give it to him?" But I told him that this is a terrible risk. I don't like to take such a terrible risk with the life of that boy. But she had no problem giving this boy a treatment which is, again, completely unproven. When we gave the pituitary, like many hormones, we may kill, but but finally I gave in and it was my fault. Again, like I say, I don't know the full story of this, but this is not surprising. Whenever the Gerson therapy here, like someone dies of the Gerson therapy, and it's a proven thing that if they'd been doing normal medicine they would survive, but if they were on the Gerson therapy they would have survived. The systems they have and their, you know, PR spin on this is one of two. Either A, they were not doing the Gerson therapy properly, because obviously if you had been it would have worked. Or you have this. They basically say that they were interfered with and that, you know, it wasn't my fault, it was someone else's. You know, they go on to say that, you know, that basically because they gave this, the tumour regrew. But the thing is though, a lot of hormone treatments are used vastly these days in, like, in modern medicine. You know, so some of these treatments are proven to work, and yet she's saying here that, oh, if, you know, these, you know, treatments don't work, then, you know, so be it. But again, they're not abandoning these things. It's absolutely insane. And again, we've got another question here. Can arthritis be cured by the same treatment for which you use cancer? Answer. Yes, the treatment is not specific. It is not specific treatment for cancer. Just pointing out, you know, the name of the book. Because again, where you can tell a quack, the second they start claiming that this is a cure-all, your alarm bells should be ringing. Here's another one. Question. How do you account for the fact that many skin cancers and some other cancers can be surgically removed and they never regrow or reoccur even though no metabolic changes have been made? That's a good question. Again, here we go. Some patients only have temporary damage of the liver, and the liver is then able to restore itself. Again, how is skin cancer affecting your liver? Unless you actually have liver cancer, this is not going to affect your liver. Again, this is an out and outright lie. And again, they're not even distinguishing between the different types of cancers, because there are two types of cancers. There is the banal cancers, which are basically just a mass, it grows, and it's just a one-time thing and it goes away. There are then the the unusual cancers, although I think I've got them mixed up there, which again, they grow, and you've got to literally get every last piece out, or else it'll just keep on coming back and back and back. And then you've got dangers that the cancer might spread to different parts of your body. So again, they're not even distinguished. She doesn't even distinguish between that there are different types of cancers and even different stages of cancer as well. So again, people that claim that she's like this expert on cancer, she's not. Where were we? Yeah. But that is not in the majority of the cases. Sometimes if you remove, say, the breast cancer, the removal of these toxins and poisons which the cancer itself generates is sufficient in some cases to revive the temporary damage from the liver. How is your breast cancer affecting your liver? It isn't. It's a simple answer. This is absolute bullshit, and this is why I'm so glad that this is actually in a book and written down, because you can actually read the bullshit on the page. Again, how is it affecting your liver? Again, removal of toxins. What toxins is a cancer, giving off? None. Even in this book, Max Gerson claims that that cancer gives off toxins. What toxins? In about 500-page book, he doesn't even explain. Even today, Charlotte Gerson, in this answer, cannot explain what these supposed toxins are. Where are we? Then the liver can recover, but these are exceptions, and it is not basic. And yet there are hundreds, if not thousands, if not billions upon billions of people that have had successful surgery removing their tumours and cancers, and it's never come back. And yet she's like, whatever, because it takes away money from her. That's why. Also, some of these patients may get reoccurrences later. This is why people are checked up. And this is why there's a 5-year survival rating, because you are constantly being checked for 5 years, because in your time your cancer may regrow. That is the time period where it may regrow. This is a scientific thing that we have studied for years. Many patients after an ISPL operation had stayed well for 3 or sometimes even 5 years. Then the cancer reoccurred. They were inoperable and orthodox medicine was helpless. Again, that's, again, not even really explaining why cancer, might reoccur. It has nothing to do with these toxins. It has nothing to do with how well your liver works. Again, it's ridiculous. And then the follow-up question for that was, would it not be advantageous for cancer patients to remain permanently on a vegetarian diet for the rest of their lives? And then question, that depends on how far the liver can be restored. Your liver has nothing to do with how it affects cancer. In all this book, it basically says your liver can, help cure you of cancer. How doesn't say. Do our therapy and improve your immune system. And it'll cure AIDS and whatever else. So it's just like ridiculous. And then you've got another question here. Question, would Parkinson's disease respond to a treatment similar to that for cancer? The answer should be no. Answer, what is destroyed is the central nervous system, and Parkinson's disease is a disease of the basal centers. It is destroyed forever. But you are able to help the arteries in the brain with the treatments, and you can stop the progression. And you can restore what is not yet entirely destroyed. Basically, what she's just said here is that Parkinson's really damages essentially your nervous system. And basically she's saying that you can heal your nervous system by drinking 13 litres of juice a day. I want to get anyone who's, thinks that this woman is somehow, a saint. She's a quack. She's an out-and-out quack. And that answer there proves it. What science still cannot answer, she is claiming that she can. And yet, she has no proof whatsoever that her therapy can cure Parkinson's. And yet, she will happily claim that it can. Well, yes, this is the last one. Question: how can we prevent cancer? Answer: cancer must be prevented, damaging the liver. The food basic measure of prevention is not to eat the damaged, dead, poisoned food which we bring into our bodies. Every day, day by day, we poison our bodies. The older people still have a better liver and resistance from the food they had when they were young. Because, processed food hasn't been a thing for years, even decades. And again, how do you, I'm sorry, but just listen here, right? From the start of the sentence, the older people still have a better liver and resistance from the food they had when they were young. So, is that meal that they had when they were 10 providing some resistance against cancer? Gee, I guess, the vast majority of cancer patients aren't older people. Again, she's no idea what she's on about. No idea. The younger people get worse, and the babies, now the second generation on canned baby foods, are still worse. They get leukemias, which is a highly curable at this point. I'm not sure she's aware of this, but 99% of childhood leukemias are treatable. And these children go on to live full and perfect lives, free from cancer. Again, they are not poisoning their bodies. They are perfectly fine. You are perfectly fine eating food. You are not fine if you do it to excess. And what the Gerson therapy does by saying that, you drink 13 litres a day is an excess. It is unhealthy. Even if it's, 13 litres of carrot juice you're drinking a day, it is unhealthy. Yeah, and then basically her advice is eat as much raw food and keep potassium level up, and take some iodine. So that was the question and answer session with Charlotte Gerson. That was just a few I've chosen, but there's loads there. We could have been here for hours discussing and really going into some of her questions and answers, but they are absolutely ridiculous. And that's barely scratching the surface of the quackery and outright ridiculousness that is in the rest of this book.